They can hear you.
Okay.
But I've got to wait for all the platforms. We're on 15 platforms now.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, so I got to wait for them all to connect. And there they are. So welcome everybody to live and replay. We got the beautiful Jamie Williams from Hot Springs, Arkansas. Hot from Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Hey.
Hot off the press. We're going to play the intro and allow people time to come in. This is our third of 4 shows today. And this is going to be a really good one. Any of you who have tuned in, I got several messages about Jamie on YouTube, especially, really liked her. So you might want to stick around for this one. We'll be right back. Give me about a minute, 19 seconds. See, there's already 2 people that made reference. They said, "Oh yeah, Jamie again, beautiful." And Bruce, the Soulology comic, says Jamie returns. And by the way, Bruce, I see you have some competition from Violet Melon out there with your linguistics, your etymology of the words that you guys make up. Jamie, it's great to have you back. I know we just chatted just for a second before the show, but really got some great feedback on your energy the last time you were on. And so I'm really happy that you came back. Thank you for coming back and honoring us with your presence, taking time out of your day, because I know you're busy.
Well, thank you so much for having me again. I am so honored to be back on the platform. Thank you.
We are, for those of you who don't know, we are, she's my homegirl. We live in the same state. We're only a couple hours away from each other, so I know we're going to be meeting up eventually. A lot, we talked about 5 weeks ago. We kind of got introduced to you, the Soulology community. And one of the things that came out is you really, you're in service. Number one, you're also very real. Which I find to be an extraordinary combination with anyone who's pulling in the level of intel that someone like you does and still able to function in everyday life. And you got 3 kids at the house and you're a single mom for 10 years. And, you got a lot of stuff going on and you maintain your balance and you continue to serve and expand your work and, your own essence. And saying all that, I think your perspective on what's happened over the last few weeks since we talked would be really interesting. Did you go through any? What did you go through? I mean, was it an interesting ride for you the last few weeks?
It has been a very interesting ride for me the past few weeks. As everyone, most of mine, I think I had spoke about it before. Typically, when these things happen, the ones that are right in our space are those who mirror us, and that's where those challenges begin to come in at. And so, again, in my household, that's where most of mine has projected back to me, and those energies have been just wild. Um, just a lot has happened, but it's
Yeah.
purging. A lot has come up, still healing, still growing, as we all are to get us into this into our full Christ.
Yeah. A lot of people talking about, they're talking about December 21st, the solstice. And I've seen different things on it. I saw something, and I was told today that it wasn't entirely accurate, but that there was, without getting into the specifics of it, because I'm not sure if that's where I was inaccurate about it, because I just really basically repeated it. Some planetary alignments that's only occurred in the last time it occurred was in 6,000 years ago. That's happening on the 21st. But I mean, more from an energetic standpoint. Do you feel like anything's coming up? Are you sensing anything? Are you getting any intel in regard to where we're at and where we're going in the, with what's left with the rest of the year?
The information that's actually coming to me is basic. It comes in like different ways. There's different language or lingo that I'm hearing it in than other people are hearing it in. But basically, it's the same thing with the planets aligning. December 21st is going to be just a huge change, a huge explosion. We are going to go through a major gateway at that particular time that is going to see just a major change happening across the scale. So I'm hearing pretty much the same thing as everybody else. Um,
Are you getting or how do I put this? There's so much emphasis on the self, I am soul, as this journey goes on, and there's also a proportionate level of expansion in the distortion. We've just gone through this, whatever this was, whatever this is, this politics and the aftermath of that, which to me, regardless of what's been said and done, we still don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's all, and I don't even know how relevant it is, but is that affecting your field? Are you finding with your clients, is it affecting their field, your environment, or are people going inward more and more?
yes, absolutely. I had a Zoom call tonight with some young ladies that are not fully step onto the path. All three of them are just realize it's time to go inward. And the way they're all saying things is that it's just at that hour um, to self-reflect, to stay off and outside of in the experience. And that's awesome to hear them say because they're still in church and things like that. And so they're ready to come out of that.
Wow.
It's pushing um, everybody within and to see those people, that are really heavy in the church still saying things like that. That is everything to me. So that's all that energy and, uh, dealing with people that are still you know the outside drama and in the church and the way that they are going inside of themselves. That's huge to me.
Oh, I want to follow up on that. Can you try moving your mic a little bit closer because they're saying you're cutting out a little bit, and I think it's because of the projection of the voice.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, that's much better. Yeah, that's much better. I'll take this down to that
Okay.
so you'll be more comfortable there. Okay. So yeah, that's really interesting though, because I know from talking to you before, we talked about my own upbringing and my own interaction, with the African American culture, community, the church, the specifically the mother's role. But like, so I mean, you actually have some friends here that you're referring to that are still, and we say that in the best ways because
Absolutely.
there's a strong spirituality there. But so they're actually, I mean, first of all, they must know that are you are into what you're into, and
Absolutely.
so that's kind of interesting that they would seek you out. Has this been going on for a while? Or is it just starting to happen?
These are the people that come actually into my presence. And so I'll back up and say my particular path and being situated in a Bible belt, I could call it that divine strategy.
Yeah.
I'm situated here and, have went through that upbringing and been through the whole Baptist church and things like that. In order, as I came out of it, I have a level of understanding of that whole atmosphere. And so the way I'm taught in, I say going through my initiations and the things I'm taught are actually like the mysteries of the Bible, how to bring um, the higher knowledge into the mysteries of what these things are actually meaning that are in the Bible that we hear in church to them more like in clearly because if you listen to most of the the 5D community, the lingo, things becomes very confusing. And so I have to bring transfer what's given to me from the Brotherhood, or the Great White Brotherhood. They re, give me this information. I'm able to transfer it to these people that are still in the church and into the outside world, where they can kind of understand it and comprehend what's happening on a more of a 5D scale.
Yeah. So you're right where you're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And as far as the superficial topics, let's say the politics or even the COVID and the quarantine and all that, is does that seem to have been the catalyst for your friends, like in this example, who are starting to go within, maybe looking somewhere else beyond what they've been looking for resolution?
Yes, it was definitely COVID was that mark, because before I was speaking with the same people, um, it was a process in listening to what they were going through in life, and then interjecting the information, with love that was necessary to help them along their path in order to help to transition them. That's what the process has been. But COVID was that marker that allowed everybody, or pushed everybody, that from my experience, to go within themselves, and to begin to see what is God, what God means to them, what is God trying to say, what's really going on, what's happening, because it's a very scary time. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
the whole planet shut down. Um, you have a lot of people dying and things like that, and walking around with the mask on, and just all that fear that has taken a toll on the whole world, especially in America. We're still kind of going through. A lot of people are mandatorily having to wear masks and things like that, and so um, with them having to not clearly comprehend what's happening on the grander scale, this has absolutely pushed them within themselves. And
Yeah.
plus, them
Yeah.
out of
It's
their.
kind of ironic that it's the fear-based programming is actually the catalyst and the impetus
Mhm.
for this soul searching, when the fear-based programming doesn't have that intention. That's kind of cool.
That's powerful. I think a lot of even with it being with the Corona name, and thinking, knowing that the Corona is actually that storage of Christ consciousness that's around the sun, and I
Mm,
think the way that name coincided together, I just see it from a broader scale, understanding what that's saying. And so it definitely did push them inside in order for them to give birth to that Christ consciousness, to receive it, to go inside in order to tap into that corona in the sun, which is that bank, that storage of that Christ consciousness.
yeah.
It's beautiful.
Have you received any? And I know you do because you're pretty much in constant communion. But in terms of the Great White Brotherhood, um, have you received any significant intel over the last few weeks as this period's been going down?
It's been the same. What they attempt really not to do is they attempt to keep me more in the now. It's not a
Hmm.
lot of prophecy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
because things are always changing. It's always changing. I have the ability to tap into the Akashic records and things like that. And things are always changing. And so the only information they will give me, if it's something that looks like it's about to be tragic, or something that's going to happen, or we can project and we can literally see it, that something's tragic about is about to happen, where that's where I receive that information and begin to transmute it, where you have decrees and things like that. And I have a group that we actually do that work together. So there's a work that's done with the information that's going to be tragic, or things that are not going to be conducive to us as a whole, or that's going to be um, allowing us to move smoothly into our Christ consciousness. So that's kind of information that they give out as far as with me.
wow, wow. And then this group that you do this work with, you do that online or is it
We
local?
we actually do no, we do it on Zoom, and this was actually started through through the Brotherhood. There was a dispensation of light granted um, in order to start this particular group, and to use that light and energy to transmute a lot of what's going on.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've had a couple of groups that have actually come on and done shows with us.
Oh,
Yeah, and you would, as you would expect, not nothing against the men, but they're all sisters, and they met, and then they just all had the guidance to develop, a meetup, And yeah, we had the opportunity to sit, have them take us into their world, so to speak. When they get together and what they do, it was very interesting. But like when y'all get together, is there like a set agenda, or you just come in and let intuition lead the way?
It's mostly a set agenda. Um, Most of the time, well, the way it began, I received from beloved Saint Germain, Ascended Master Saint Germain, which most people are very familiar with this Ascended Master, the one that brought the violet ray on to the planet or to the surface in like the 1930s. And I received the information for him the way the standard procedure and how to move. And so we follow that guideline. But if something changes, if one of us intuitively receives something, then we share it together and agree together. Is this something that we all should put out there? And because we're sending out this kind of powerful energy into the earth, and we want to be on one accord, so we will get together. And if there's something that needs to be changed,
Very cool. I guess Arkansas is one region with many, many, many a multitude of regions throughout the world, even just in the United States, you could say that. And it's interesting. I'm not in Hot Springs, but of course I'm right outside of Fort Smith, and it's interesting to see because Arkansas tends to be what a small town and semi-rural environment. There seems to be a lot of kind of sovereignty frequency. People pretty much kind of, I'm going to say rule themselves. There is authority and there is police and courts and all that, but it's kind of a kind of a little freestyle, old school going on here. But there has been, kind of a varied impact from what I've seen when I run to the market or run to a restaurant or whatever with this whole quarantine thing, which has recently kind of ramped up. Have you noticed anything happening with people collectively? Are they? Because I know you also work in a place where there's a lot of people. Are they pushing back a little bit? Are you seeing any signs of spiritual confidence and sovereignty?
it's not really been a whole lot of that. It's just been mostly going in and self-reflecting.
Yeah.
Um, that's really what I'm seeing right now is that self-reflecting, and it's very um, beautiful to witness that because of course we have to go in and do that work within. Things are coming up, that purging is coming up outside of these people, and that's what's beautiful for me to see because understanding the energies that are ramped up or amped up, and they're not really truly understanding what's happening to them or how to transmute this energy, and then understanding what is coming through. I am gaining the insight. December 21st is going to be a huge transition. I don't
Wow.
know exactly what that is going to look like. I think from my heart space, I don't think that we are going to know exactly what that looks like. I don't think anybody's going to know exactly what that looks like until it happens. I think because something has to be left as a surprise element. We can't know every single thing that's going to happen, but I do believe that the way things are lining up is going to be this massive transition. Um, and I also saw just in a vision, um, the splitting of the timelines, like a cell splitting. So I mean, that definitely I saw that a few months ago, and then I received that message within my heart that has already pretty much occurred. There's a splitting in the timeline,
Mm.
like a cell. So much of that is happening very rapidly. So just the beauty for me is to see these people, whatever is pushing them to go within themselves and begin that um, quick healing process is just absolutely beautiful to me.
Right on. Rachel Sather just mentioned in a comment Arkansas has major veins of beautiful quartz crystals, and we know that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you do something a little bit on the side where you work with in a crystal mine or a crystal field or something. And being that you've been a practitioner for a long time and where you're located, how do you utilize the crystals? Or do you utilize the crystals in your practice, in your lifestyle, and what kind of influence and collaboration can they offer somebody who hasn't worked with crystals?
My experience with the crystals as as they are living beings, living entities. Um, and what I've discovered with each of them, they all carry a different frequency. So yes, I do work with them all the time. The crystals are all around me right now if you see them.
Hmm.
Um, but what I've realized about them just on a personal level, um, interacting with each specimen, it carries a certain frequency of love. And so when you have a heart of love and that gemstone has its own frequency of love, it's just a beautiful connection. And it's those gemstones, and I'm sure a lot of practitioners that work with them, they actually will more guide you what to do with it. It'll show you in what areas it is good to work in, what it should be used for, who it should be used for. And so that's how I've worked with them. It's that communication. It's just like I'm communicating with a human, a human person. Same way I communicate with the different species of the gemstones, and just
Yeah.
guide me and work with them that way.
Right on. And you, I mean, you're so down to earth. Like I said at the top of the show, you're a single mother. You have been for many years, and we can go into other details. But so I think your perspective is something that's very credible. A lot of people that listen to someone like yourself who has certain clairs, and then they make statements such as, I pretty much communicate with a crystal the way I do with human beings, and so on. I just want to ask you, and there's no right or wrong answer, just so people can kind of get an idea. Uh, how exactly do you receive, let's say, the energy of Saint Germain, the energy of crystals? How do you communicate? What type of clairs do you have? Did you always have them? Did you have to develop them? Have you had new ones come on? That type of thing.
Clairvoyant, clairaudient, that has
Okay.
always been there. Just didn't really understand, of course, how to work with them. It's always been there. It was the more I tuned into my inner self, the more I began to understand and have the clarity of these gifts that I do have. The way I connect with Saint Germain and the other ascended masters is it's just you tune into their actual radiance. You're caught up into their radiance, into their actual presence. It's not like a channel. It's you're literally in their presence and in their radiance, and then that's the way the communication happens in that way. I can see glimpses of them. It's not really like a premonition, or I can always see their presence, but I understand. I can feel. So each of them have a different, just like the crystals. They all have a specific energetic signature. And once you begin to work with them a lot and over years, you begin to recognize the energetic signature of each of the
Mm,
masters of the gemstones I'm working with, and you just it's a gift. You have to something that's developed over time. Just like
right.
you in relationship or getting to know anybody, you begin to recognize that person and their quirks and their energy. So it's the same way with dealing with the ascended masters or the ascended beings or higher octave beings, and then and dealing with the gemstones and things like that.
Yeah. My wife often tells people, in terms of, because they'll say, "How do I contact my higher self?" And she'll say, "Well, you develop a relationship with it just like you do anything else, and it expands and grows, and you eventually have more clarity as time goes on." So I guess in other words, you have a room of crystals.
Absolutely.
You go and you say, "I'm going to focus on that particular crystal there." You might pick it up, you look at it, and you start to merge with it. The
Hmm.
same thing it sounds like you're doing in the etherics
Hmm.
with ascended masters or light beings or whatever. How about when you dip into the Akashic? Is it pretty much the same thing? Do you go in there looking for some particular information, or does it come to you, or is it a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
There as far as I really don't dip into the Akashic records a lot for other people. I have. Um, I am again more steered away from doing that with other people. And
Okay.
also, some things about myself that I try not to. I mean, the curiosity is there, and I want to know certain things. So I have dipped into my Akashic records, but um, what I realized when that happened, when you're going to the Akashic records, it's by vibration. It's by vibration as well. So, in accordance to the vibration I'm on at that particular moment, and I look into these records, then that's the probability of what's going to happen on that particular vibration that I'm on. And so, if you get um, stuck on, okay, well, this is what's going to happen in my experience, and you get trapped right there. And what I've realized is that as I consciously increase in frequency with things constantly changing, there's that energetic shift is constantly expanding. And so that's my reason for not really want to go into the Akashic records a whole lot on myself and on other people, because things change so rapidly according to the work that you're personally doing with your own self, within yourself.
Yeah. You don't want to interfere.
Exactly.
Yeah, there does seem to be um, on in this realm, of course, what a template of interference,
Mm-hmm.
that's been built in all of us, but that doesn't seem to apply to the true reality of the universe. I mean, there is kind of a law of non-interference, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I learned that the hard way, with even on my own path. That was outside the hard way. Learning that, where I was set on something that I saw in my Akashic records, and I was set on this is it, and allowed myself to kind of get stuck right there. And I should have been moving past that particular moment. So
Yeah.
I had to learn that through experience as well.
Yeah, yeah. Getting attached to anything in the etheric is no different than getting attached to something in the physical, right?
Absolutely.
Um, Now, and so this is great too, because again, you're very down to earth, very straightforward, uh, very real, normal, whatever that is. Uh, so I think people again can gain some code, or at least have something to think about, which I think is the name of the game
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to connecting, particularly in the etheric field. And understanding that sometimes you go looking for something specific, and sometimes it comes to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what about what people refer to? And I know I touched on this with you last time, but I just want to see if we can kind of dig something up here. Uh, what about in terms of, like, have you come across energies in the etheric that you weren't comfortable with, that you didn't resonate with?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, what did you do? How did you deal with it?
That happened. Um, Once I stepped into the path and really started working in those etheric realms, and these are more of the lower astral realms that passing through that. It's a lower astral realm, and etheric realm. And like I say, with the wording, everyone
Yeah.
uses the different words are different, but the way I'm taught is that we have that astral plane. The astral plane is where you find a lot of the fourth dimensional beings that are actually like that fallen, the cabal, those energies are set up on the fourth dimension. And then you have the etheric, which moves into the fifth dimension, which is the heaven dimensions. And those are where you have the etheric retreats, where we go to at nighttime, and we're able to do our studying and things like that. So I'm able to go there quite a bit as well. But before I realized the difference, and then um, I'll go back and back up and say, okay, before I realized the difference, I went into the astral plane as far as traveling. Went into the astral plane, and that's when I encountered some beings that are, malevolent. And that was pretty horrifying.
What'd you do?
Um, mm,
Just got the
I,
hell out of there?
you know what? I'll tell you in that moment, because I was on the path, and then I had went through a moment to where that point in life to where I wanted to just dismiss everything that I was taught. In the church, that was just at that moment on the path where I just wanted to put away everything. I call it my particular going back, my point of going back to 0 point.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know whether to believe in Jesus, what was his name, all these different things that I was taught. I didn't know really what to believe at that particular time. And I did encounter Sananda, that aspect. I encountered that I was actually on a cruise ship. So I encountered that being, and he did explain some things to me. But I didn't use the name Jesus anymore. And it was in that moment when I encountered these malevolent beings. That's the moment I started using the name of Jesus again. And so that's the moment to where um and the power even in that name. And that was a whole nother transformation. But it was after that moment is when I was taken up with the Brotherhood, and they began to teach me how to go past those um that level of dimension, how to pass through that. the way to protect myself and to shield myself from actually getting stuck there and encountering these beings again. The type of light that I was able to use in order to pass that level.
Right on.
Hmm.
Very good explanation. Yeah, there are certain, and it might be different for everyone, but I can totally relate to what you're saying. It's like that old cartoon Shazam, or where you say a word, and the energy of the word is, or the consciousness of the word
Hmm.
brings you to an immediate place of empowerment.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's now, and I just wonder, and again, no right or wrong answer, but I'm sitting here listening to your description. I can relate to it, resonates with me. That's kind of how my experience has been in terms of the astrals here. I would call it fourth dimension, and then so on. Um, but I always wonder, where are the starships? Are they in the third dimension with us? Are they, where are they? You
There,
know?
we begin to see them more. What if we, as we're growing, we're kind of resonating third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, and higher. And what I realized, I'm able to really starting to recognize the starships once I began to tap into the fourth dimension, fifth dimension, and sixth, and on up. But even the fourth dimension, I was able to begin to see them. But what happens is your frequency has to match their frequency because they don't particularly come this low. Like in the third dimension, they won't come that low often because it gets dangerous. Can you hear me? It
Yes,
gets
I can hear you.
dangerous for
Yeah,
them as
yeah.
well. And that's how I was told. It gets dangerous for them as well. So when I began to encounter them was when once I began to move into the fourth dimension, fifth dimension, and on up, and that's when I was able to truly encounter those. So it's frequency, of course,
Yeah.
consciousness and frequency, and that's when you're able to really encounter
Yeah.
from my experience.
Wow.
So I believe as the planet, as we begin to shift, and as Earth has ascended and we're ascending with her, that's when those landings and things can really begin to take place because we'll resonate with that level of consciousness and frequency in order for it all to be comfortable.
Yeah, it's almost like a built-in safety mechanism. Like we're not going to be subjected to those things that we cannot accept. Good or bad,
You'll
right?
actually go crazy again, kind of lose it to see things like that if you're not ready for it.
Do you feel like that in terms of energy itself and what we experience here, in this realm from our consciousness,
Hmm.
if we look back on our life, do you feel like that? I mean, obviously, in all of our lives, we felt resistance,
Hmm.
like something's resisting us or something like that. Do you? And I know I mentioned this to you last time. I just want to get some re-clarification from your perspective. Uh, what's happened to that? Do you feel like that resistance has lessened, has remained the same? Has it diminished substantially? Is it gone? I mean, what do you feel anything like that?
It cut out a little bit at the end saying.
Um, in terms of like the resistance that seems to have been present
Hmm.
in our journey in this incarnation,
Hmm.
you know, uh, this year, do you feel like there's been a change in that frequency or that energy? Has it remained the same? Has it diminished? Is it gone? Is it increasing? Do you feel like that you're operating against as much or more or less resistance than you used to?
No, absolutely, it's diminished, and it's diminishing the more that we let go and begin to flow. And that's what I think most of us path are beginning to do is to we're flowing um now with the energies. Instead of if we're resisting them, then we're not really healing and growing. We have to allow. And so I believe that most of us on the path are truly transcending the resistance right now. And we're just flowing because we're getting close. We're getting close to walking around being in our full Christed selves. We're really
Right on.
close. So
What
yeah,
a, what about other things, potentially or possibly or realistically transcending, such as sexuality? What do you think of that one? Are we transcending sexuality?
well, I know I am. Um, on a personal level, um, being celibate for many years now, and that was a huge part of my journey, a personal thing. Um, because just like anybody else, I truly enjoyed it a whole lot. And so that, as far as my journey, being a single woman, um, that was a challenge. I was really kind of, it was presented to me actually, um, to become celibate, and that's a it's just a part of my particular journey. So that's, yes, the sexuality part, trans sexuality part, has absolutely been instrumental on my growth process. I've been able to channel that particular energy into other things, into more creative energies. I haven't had that opportunity, as a lot of the sacred unions has had, is to actually use, transcend that with one another, that with a different being, person. I've had to kind of do that within myself. So as everything's been merging within myself all the way around. And that's just my path, that
Yeah.
being within.
What about other things? Do you think we're transcending culture? Skin color. Um, I'd probably just leave it at those two things. Do you think we're transcending that? Do you think that we're making progress, or is that just something that's occurring in a select few?
It's a select few right now.
Okay.
It is happening. We will set that example, but it is really right now. It's a select few. It's the forerunners that are really, transcending all of that, and we're showing. We're actually living and showing oneness, and not just talking about it. We
Yeah.
are being in that oneness, but just again, even on that Zoom call last night with the young ladies I was speaking of, she did have, one of the ladies had a concern, and this is a Caucasian young lady, and she had a concern that, her husband is actually a preacher. So, she's a preacher's wife and things like that, and she was very concerned about that, the separation that's still happening, in the churches and things. That you have to still have the black church and still have the white church, and she was concerned about it still being so separated. So the beauty in that, again, is even though they have that growing that has to take place within, that is truly happening, those are things that they're recognizing, and they're going within themselves and healing within themselves first, and then wanting to step out into the community with that growth that's happening within them, and begin to try to change things around them. And
Yeah.
so, it's gradual, but it's beautiful to absolutely watch that happen.
Yeah. I guess ultimately the polarities are the way to unity.
Absolutely.
It's like that. Until we accept the other side, we're never going to get there. So it's an interesting dynamic. Wow. Now I know that because I've seen you do it before. I don't know if there's something that you feel resonated to do or moved to do, in terms of a blessing or um, prayer or affirmation or anything like that. You might, if you're moved to do it, to share with us. Um, before we get out of here.
I will. I'll absolutely share. Is that, and I've spoken before. It's really one of my favorite ones. It's a violet flame decree, and we had spoken before, I think, on another show.
Yeah.
But why it's so powerful is because it actually, it cuts through all the effluvia, and it also, with that violet flame, and it also, um, brings a shield of protection of a tube of light around those that are hearing it and the ones that are actually saying it. So it's very beautiful. And I mean, I don't mind sharing that one.
Thank you.
Ready?
Yes.
Now, oh, my loving, I am present, thou light of God around me, whose radiance forms a circle of fire before me to light my way. I am faithfully calling to thee to place a great pillar of fire from my own mighty I am God presence all around me right now today, and keep it intact through every passing moment, manifesting as a shimmering shower of God's beautiful light through which nothing human can ever pass. And to this divinely charged energy, direct the upsurge of the violet fire of freedom's forgiving, transmuting flame, and cause the ever expanding energy of this flame projected downward into the force field of our human energies to completely change every negative condition into the positive of my own great God self, and let the magic of its mercy So purify my world with light, that all whom I contact shall always be blessed with the fragrance of violets from God's own heart, in memory of the blessed dawning day, when all discord, the cause, effect, record, and memory is forever changed into the victory of light and the peace of the ascended masters.
Wow. Well, that's a mouthful.
There it
That's impressive.
is.
It's about 4 pages out of a book right
There
there.
it is. Yes, that is
Sweet. Thank you for that.
absolutely.
Thank you for that. Well, I just want to say thanks again, and I wish you the very best. All blessings to you and your kids and your family and your work and your friends. Keep on doing what you're doing. Thank you for your service to humanity, and I hope I get to see you soon before the year's over, and if not, maybe first part of next year.
Yeah,
I'd love to do a show with you while we're sitting side by side.
absolutely. We will do that very soon.
Sounds good to me. You take care.
All right.
Love you.